We currently still don't know a whole lot about Doom the Dark Ages, but today I'm gonna go over every detail that we know about right now. And of course, as standard with a video like this, please let me know if I miss anything about the game in the comments. Oh, and if you'd like to come join us on our weekend streams, wait, is he Paul Blow? At 12:30 PM Central Time, then you can also feel free to do that. One of the most eagerly awaited and worrying parts of Doom the Dark Ages is both its dragon and mech combat. Never before in a Doom game have we had this kind of set piece moment, apart from maybe controlling the Revenant drone in Doom Eternal, but that doesn't count. The one that we currently know the least about here is the dragon. It'll be seen during flight sections where you'll fight demonic dragons and I'm assuming these giant hell ships. Those who were present at the exclusive QuakeCon showing of the game have said that the Slayer was seen hopping onto the dragon during a grounded mission. Whether this means we'll be seeing the dragon quite a lot throughout the game is still up in the air. Something I feel many have failed to point out when talking about this topic though is that this gameplay reveal was unfinished, and the dragon might have just been put in that area just to demonstrate the mechanic to the people at the reveal show. In terms of the mech combat, we also don't have a whole lot of information on it, but we have enough to really kind of get an idea of how it's gonna work, roughly. The mech will be able to use its powerful fist to topple the towering titans, but during QuakeCon it was said that the mech was using a giant Gatling gun. Some have also said the mech sections will include destructible environments. We can see that to a certain extent during the initial trailer we got, but that's still not completely confirmed because I haven't heard anything official about it. But regardless, the idea of destroying stuff in a Doom game is so cool to me. Still though, this does give me concerns about how the game's gonna work. I'm worried that it's gonna have too many set pieces. Next up on this episode of the Beansprout Talks About Doom for an overly extended time is the weapons of Doom the Dark Ages. From what we've seen so far, they're quite frankly amazing. The Slayer has been seen using many really different and unique weapons this time around, and this is probably the first time in Doom's history where we've seen them deviate from the classic 8 weapons we usually see. The Skull Crusher is an incredibly metal looking weapon that chews up skulls and spits them back out at the enemies that are standing in front of you. Although I'm not sure if this weapon's gonna be really the greatest in terms of damage. I mean, usually spread weapons like this just aren't in most games, but I don't know, it's Doom, it might be different. This time around, the railgun has seen a lot of change. Rather than a concentrated beam, we are now seeing the Slayer launch literal metal beams into the enemies, which, can I mention, pins them to walls. We of course have seen our classic super shotgun already. How can we go without that?
We're always together. We do everything together.
This time around, it doesn't really support any cool weapon mods, which is a bit disappointing. But something that does support weapon mods though is the Accelerator. The Accelerator is like a faster SMG version of the plasma rifle that we've seen in other games. But now it has a weapon mod that gives it 2 barrels and looks kind of similar to the Quake nail gun from what's been described. This both kind of confirms that weapon mods will be returning and the progression system might be returning too. Something else that's also pretty cool is that we're going to see a lot of medieval or melee weapons in this game. Notably a mace, a flail, and of course, your fists. Now you're probably thinking, Beansprout, you silly little man who is canonically 5'6". Why haven't you mentioned the shield saw yet? Are you avoiding it? Do you not like cool things? Shame on you. Well, no, I'm not avoiding it, because it's shield time. So yeah, the shield saw works both as an offensive weapon and a defensive weapon. The main elements people notice is that you can now parry, which adds a completely new element to Doom's gameplay, and we're also able to throw the shield, which we already knew. Throwing the shield is apparently going to one-shot most lesser enemies, and this time around throwing the shield at the shield guy's shield... Jesus Christ, that's a lot of shield. This time around, throwing the shield at the shield guy's shield will make the shield explode. Throwing the shield at a larger enemy though will make the shield get stuck in it and do damage over time. From what we know, a large part of Doom Eternal's traversal is probably going to be axed with this game due to its more grounded approach. However, we have heard that the Slayer was seen bouncing to the shield. There was a part in the trailer where he was seen throwing it across a broken bridge and bouncing over to it. Now, in terms of enemies, not a lot is actually known about them. As I said earlier in the video, we are aware that titans and dragons will be featured in this game as enemies. But what about the smaller foes? You know, the ones you can punch with your own hands. Well, soldiers are now to be seen in very, very large groups, potentially up to the hundreds, because apparently the cap on the amount of demons you can have in one room has been removed. Allegedly. Imps return, sporting their classic design, which is something I really, really love. Hell Knights look pretty much the same and function the same as Doom Eternal from what I've I've seen. Mancubi are updated a little bit visually, and honestly I don't like their design as much in this game, but I still think they look pretty cool. The Orangutron is something I really love the design of in this game. Much like the Mancubus, it's had its UAC parts removed from it and to a more natural look. The Revenant though is one that I think has had the most changes out of all the enemies we've seen so far. We haven't really seen him up close and personal, but from what I can make out, he appears to be wearing a cloak and wielding 2 sickles. So instead of throwing the world's greatest haymaker at you now, he just tries to stab you. True British style. Now to the weird ones. We do know this enemy's in the game. We don't know what it is, but we know it is there. Some have said maybe it's a Kako demon, but I really hope not. This one here is what I assume is the Pinky, but we aren't 100% sure on it. That's why it's going in the weird one section. I mean, it could pass as a Pinky, but I'm not sure because it looks so drastically different to all the other modern iterations of the Pinky we've seen. But regardless, the idea of a hellified soldier riding on the back of a giant beast is something really awesome, and as displayed in the trailer, he might work as kind of like a weak point for this enemy. Now by far the coolest out of all of them we've seen is this guy, who is pretty much confirmed now to be one of the Argadon hunters that Dave Granak talks about in Doom Eternal, the original form of the Doom Hunter. The reason we know this is just simply the placement of its horns and certain parts of the way its upper body is built, as its upper body is basically the exact same as the Doom Hunter, just minus the robotic stuff on it. But the Doom Hunter looks a bit uncomfortable, don't you think? You know, wearing that giant energy shield can't possibly be comfortable or stylish. Well, if only he was wearing a piece from Akka Clothing. Akka Clothing provides high quality and comfortable clothing items that could make even the Doom Hunter smile, such as this one here. And the best part is that you could also be smiling by clicking the link in the description and using the code Beansprout to get 20% off on your order. Anyway, what else is there? Well, on the more miscellaneous side of things, we do have some information about the game's UI. A very thoughtful fan who was present at the QuakeCon presentation decided to draw the HUD. Granted, it was from memory though. In the bottom right, we see an ammo counter, pretty obviously. Next to that is a punch meter. We don't know what this is, maybe a blood punch. But in all honesty, I think the blood punch would be one too many melee things in this game. In the middle of your screen is your health and armor, along with what is apparently a face, which is the first time we've seen a Doom Guy face since 1996. However, it has been said that it's just going to be a blue hologram, so we don't know. In the bottom left corner there is a shield saw meter, which makes me think the shield saw could run out of charge, kinda like the chainsaw did, but I really don't know yet. There's also these 3 things underneath the reticle that I could not hazard a guess as to what they're for. Now you're probably wondering what the giant purple ring is. Well, according to those who saw the live gameplay, this is actually the staggered state. In previous games, enemies would flash blue or yellow, but here they sit in a ring of purple. Alright, editing Beansprout here, you can actually see this in the initial trailer that we got when he shoots the Hell Knight. Before it actually fully dies, it appears for a split second on the screen, and now you're gonna notice this every single time you watch that trailer. You're welcome. Now, this is all pretty cool, but please do keep in mind that everything I've said in this video is subject to change. The game is still in development and none of this is final. And if the development cycle is anything like Doom Eternal's, there's probably going to be drastic changes in both UI and gameplay in the near future. But if you'd like to learn more about what could potentially go wrong with Doom the Dark Ages, then I recommend clicking the video in the top right corner. And if you'd like to be featured in the members section at the end of every video, along with various other perks, then I highly recommend clicking the join button that's right next to the subscribe button, also something you should do if you haven't done it already. Also remember to check out Akka Clothing using the code Beansprout for 20% off, and maybe even consider joining the Discord or checking out the streams on the weekends.